David, I am a retail theft consultant. And if you're not sure what a retail consultant is we're similar to like loss prevention consultants or whatever, but unlike your typical loss prevention consultant who helps retailers recoup their losses, protect their store and their assets, we actually work with persons who have been accused of shoplifting as well. We're not lawyers. We don't pretend to be. We make that right up front. In fact, if you contact us via email, there will be a disclaimer saying we are not lawyers and the advice we give is not legal advice. Please don't take it that way. But we are familiar with how the courts handle shoplifting cases and whatnot. And so we will help guide you through the system. We'll tell you some of the options that you may have available to you in dealing with a shoplifting case. Either way, we're here to help you. I'm going to give you an email address to contact us. I will give it again throughout the video, so you'll have plenty of chance to write it down. It's retailtheftexpert@gmail.com. That's retailtheftexpert@gmail. That's gmail.com. Okay, I want to talk to you about the truth, and I emphasize the truth on civil demand. First of all, if you're not familiar with civil demand is, it's a civil law. It's active in all 50 states as well as parts of the UK and Canada. There may be some areas I'm not familiar with at the moment, but either way, it doesn't matter. It allows retailers to request funds from you if you were caught shoplifting. Example, if you're caught shoplifting an item from Walmart, then this recovery service, generally a law firm, will send you a letter asking you to pay them a certain amount of money. Now, before you think it's to recoup their for the item that you stole or whoever stole, and that the item, the value should be the amount of the item stolen, no, you're wrong. That's not what this is for. The amount of money, and you can see it in another one of my videos, look up the cost of shoplifting. There is a cost attached to protecting stores and their assets. There is no value to this as far as sales go and earning money that way. So civil demand helps recoup some of that money spent. And there's a lot of money being spent on protecting stores from theft. Again, I refer to the video on this very YouTube channel called Cost of Shoplifting. Check it out. It'll inform you of that. So, example, you steal a $35 item. You may get a letter of civil demand in the amount of $250, $300, $350. Laws vary by state. It's usually a minimum of $50, a maximum of $1,000, sometimes a little less, again, depending on the state. A lot of people, including some legal forums, and I will get to legal forums in a moment, call this extortion. It is far from extortion. It is legal. It is on the books. You don't have to like the law. There's lots of laws we don't like. But it's the law. And not paying it can, and I emphasize can, carry consequences. Now, on these legal forums, a lot of people will go there and say, hey, I got this letter. The lawyers are advising me not to pay it. I'm not sure what to do. We advise everyone to pay it. The reason being is the consequences can be long-term and severe. Now, what are the chances of the retailer or the recovery firm using these consequences? Is very low. I'll admit that. The consequences for this can be severe and long-term, but they're also not very often used. And there's a reason for that. There's time and money involved, and sometimes it's just not worth it. The chance that happened to you, it's hard to say. We have evidence of people being sued. We have evidence of people being prosecuted when they did not pay the civil demand if there was no prosecution done at the time. So it does happen. It does not happen very often, but it's up to you, the individual, to decide if this is something you want to risk or not. Now, let me tell you what the consequences are. Let's say you get that letter for $250 and you decide to ignore it. What's going to happen is you're going to get a bunch of nasty letters from this recovery service or law firm. If they so desire, they will jack up the price. Or even worse, if they so desire, they can file a civil lawsuit against you, because civil demand is a civil law. It's not a criminal law. It's a civil law. Therefore, they can take you to court, They can sue you, and then what'll happen is that $250 fine will probably be tripled or more. They'll probably add legal costs and court costs to it, and your $250 fine is now going to be well over $1,000. And then there's a judgment against you. Now, what'll happen on a lot of these legal forums is they'll say there's no force of law forcing you to pay. That's true, but there's no force of law that says anything until you go to court. Technically, and I don't mean this exaggerate, but technically it's legal to steal until you get caught. So, I mean, maybe I'm splitting hairs, maybe I'm making a poor comparison, but again, this is civil law. It's on all the books, all the law books in every single state, in Canada, in the UK, and other places. Okay, it's a civil law. There are consequences for not paying. Now, the lawsuit and the tripling of the fine, that's not all, okay? If the store has decided at the time they caught you not to prosecute and send you to jail just to seek civil demand, they can decide to file those criminal charges. Providing the statute of limitations has not run out, they can file those criminal charges at any moment. They have nothing to gain by filing criminal charges unless you don't pay. Once you do that, then they can add the civil restitution to the case. So you see my point? So there is a benefit. Not only that, a lot of times these recovery services can also file put a negative in your credit rating. So let's say you go to buy a car, take out a loan, buy a house or whatever. Now you got this negative on your credit report that you failed to pay something. You could lose an apartment, a house, a car, any of those things because it is negative on your credit report that's put on there. So again, look, these are some of the consequences. You could be sued civilly and end up paying thousands. You can be prosecuted for the crime had you not already been prosecuted. And you can also see a negative in your credit report. And we all know how important those credit reports are. Now let's talk about legal forms for a moment. Let me explain something. Legal forums are like any other forum. Anyone can answer a question there. They are not lawyers. Chances are there are a few, if any, lawyers on these sites. There are a lot of people playing lawyers and trying to give legal advice. They're not lawyers. One of the reasons we have the disclaimer on the emails on there is to make sure you know we are not lawyers. Therefore, you know that we are dealing with our expertise. We are loss prevention professionals. We have dealt with retail theft for a number of years, a couple decades in fact, so we know about this. We don't claim to give you legal advice. We don't claim to know the laws. I'm telling you what possibly could happen. The consequences I mentioned are minimal. The chances of them happening are very slim. However, they do happen. We have evidence that it has happened to some people. So our advice is pay. There's, it's a gamble. Do you want to gamble with this? Your future's at stake. You could get criminal charges. You could get a negative on your credit report. You could end up owing thousands. So is it really worth it? Again, the legal forums are not generally housed by lawyers. And even if they are housed by lawyers, what kind of lawyer are they? Is it a family law lawyer? Well, what do they know about civil demand and civil law? What kind of lawyer is it? What state do they practice in? An example, a legal firm I belong to, we were discussing civil demand. This is a few years ago. And a gentleman who prides himself on being both a lawyer and a judge, I believe he's retired, doesn't matter, didn't even know what civil demand was giving advice on it, but didn't even know what it was. He's researched it some, looked at it. But again, he's giving advice for something he knows nothing about. And this is a lawyer and a judge. Okay, so I would say use caution. If you want to talk to a lawyer, call a lawyer, ask them if they think you could pay civil demand or not. It's entirely up to you. We advise it. You can contact us. We advise you always to pay. Even though the chances of consequences are low, they're still there. You don't want to be that one that ends up with the consequences. All right, so please think carefully before you decide not to pay civil demand. Actually, you should be thinking carefully before you decide to shoplift, but regardless of that, think carefully before you decide to pay civil demand or not pay it. Talk to some people, talk to lawyers, talk to friends. You can certainly talk to us. That's retailtheftexpert@gmail.com. That's retailtheftexpert retailtheftexpert@gmail.com, and we'll be there to help you. We'll answer any of our questions that you have, and we will give you our benefit of expertise, having worked in the retail theft industry, if you want to call it that, working in loss prevention for a couple decades. Our team will answer your questions. Again, be careful. Don't just arbitrarily ignore. So I know it's enticing. Oh, hey, this guy said don't pay, so I won't pay. And then you suffer the consequences, okay? We advise everyone to pay, but that choice is entirely up to you. So please use caution, use common sense before deciding not to pay. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, contact us at retailtheftexpert@gmail.com. Thank you very much.